Hello again there. Carlos Scarpero here, VA Mortgage Specialist at Ross Mortgage and Military Mortgage Bootcamp. Today I want to talk about who is eligible to get a VA loan. Just because someone is a veteran doesn't necessarily mean they're eligible to get a VA loan. So the VA sets certain guidelines as to who is eligible. Now, eligibility does not mean the same as qualified. Let's clarify that. So eligible just means they meet the minimum guidelines in terms of service to get a VA loan. And there's qualify, which means the credit, income, that sort of thing qualifies to get the loan. So let's talk about eligibility today. And there's a quick chart we can go through, and I'm going to share my screen here in a sec. And so here we go. So who is eligible? There's different eras, and the VA sets different guidelines based on what era the veteran served. So right now we are considered in wartime still. We're in the Persian Gulf era, which is anything after August 2nd, 1990. And so the veteran needs 2 years of service or active duty 90 days. So they're on active duty. So in other words, if they're on active duty now, and they've been on active duty for at least 90 continuous days, and they're still in the military, then they qualify for the VA loan. If the veteran is outside service, they need to have completed 2 years of service. I don't know why there's different levels, but there is. Now, for National Guard or Army Reserve, it's 6 years of service with 16 points, and we'll get a point statement for that. So how does that work? There's also something called Title 10 orders. So one of the things we always ask, or at least I always ask, and most good loan officers will ask, if I find someone who's got National Guard service, I'll ask them if they've ever been activated or Title 10 orders. And what it means is if they ever become active duty for a period of time. If they have, then that's lowered down to that 90 days of service that the active duty rules would apply at that point. Also, for surviving spouse, so it's an unmarried surviving spouse, there's no time requirement. Veteran must have died on active duty from a service-connected disability. It doesn't have to be instant, so it doesn't have to be necessarily killed on the battlefield. So for example, right now there's a lot of people with the Agent Orange claim. So got Agent Orange 50 years ago in Vietnam, and they got cancer 50 years later and died from it. We can tie that together. That surviving spouse would be eligible on that as well, which is, so it's one of the things we'll always ask is, are you or your spouse eligible, or are you a surviving spouse? The other thing is POW or MIA. The veteran must have been POW or MIA for at least 90 days. So the other thing we got to consider is, I'm going to go back to the active duty 2-year requirement for a second here, that has to be a honorable discharge, but there actually is a way to appeal that, I'm trying to say. Actually, there is a way to appeal that. So for example, I had one that they had a medical discharge. She did not serve the full 2 years. She served about 1.5 years. She had a medical discharge and was discharged early. So we were able to call the VA and get a waiver and get her actually approved for a VA mortgage loan. And so that's one of those things that us here at Ross Mortgage or anybody that has this special training can do. It's one of those above and beyond type of things. So if you were discharged early for a medical reason, but it was an honorable discharge, let me know, and there's ways around that. So that's a little bit about eligibility and who's eligible for VA loan. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. My number is 937-572-3713. I can also be reached at scarpero.com. I am licensed in Ohio, Kentucky, and Michigan. So, and if you're not in any of those areas, I'm connected with loan officers all around the country that can help. Look forward to talking to you soon. Thanks.